Good afternoon, YouTubers, here at Thursday, June 26th, 2014, here at 16:20 in the afternoon Eastern Daylight Time. Joe Kersey here. Now, it turns out that today Howard Baker died. Now, Howard Baker was the one-time majority leader of the United States Senate in the early 1980s and or mid 1980s, and a longtime U.S. Senator from Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, and then he was Chief of Staff for Ronald Reagan, and afterwards he was an ambassador, and then he went into lobbying and law practice, and then after his first wife died, he married another United States Senator, Nancy Kassebaum from Kansas, and I don't know if she's still alive or not. Anyway, Howard Baker died today. And I always thought that the United States missed a huge opportunity to have a fantastic president in the person of Howard Baker. I actually got to meet the man once. And interestingly enough, I got to meet the man when I was 17 years old. Well, actually, I might have just only been 16 then at the time. I was working for these couple of these lawyers in Lebanon, Ohio, and they were very active in Republican politics. And as a teenager, I had been somewhat active myself, and there was a fellow named Donald Lukens who was our congressman at that time from the 7th District of Ohio. I think it was still called the 7th District. And he was going to run for governor of the state of Ohio. And so the election would have been in the upcoming election was going to, the actual election he was going to contest was in 1970. But he was, fundraising and, gathering his war chest and this, that, and the other. So this was a fundraiser for Donald E. Lukens. He called himself Buzz Lukens. This was obvious. This was in the late. Well, honestly, I honestly can't remember. It was either in the late fall of 1968 or the late fall of 1969. But if it was late fall of 1969, I wouldn't have been there because I'd been in school. I'd been in the Ohio State, so it had to be late fall of 1968. And it may have not even been before the election, because he may have already been reelected to the House at that. He was serving in the House of Representatives at that point, U.S. House of Representatives at that point. So, not to get sidetracked here, as I often tend to do and become becalmed, he was having a fundraiser over at an American Legion hall in Middletown, Ohio, and Barry Goldwater was going to be the main speaker, the big stem winder main speaker for this thing, after all the fried fish and so forth was dealt out. And horrible coffee had been drunk and poured and that sort of thing. And everybody's back had been slapped and glad-handed. And, that's, how those things go. And so in came, as the lead act, so to speak, the opening act for Barry Goldwater at this fundraiser, you had Howard Baker. Now, Howard Baker had been in the United States Senate maybe, he was elected in 66, so he started in 67, and so he had been in the United States Senate maybe about a year and a half from the state of Tennessee, and he was by no means a national name at that point. And he was opening for Barry Goldwater. And my employers, Mr. Cranmer and Mr. Trickleson, had said, come over with your camera, because I had a fairly good camera at that point. Thank the good Lord and my dad. And take pictures, take lots of pictures, take lots of, they bought me just tons of slide material, which, at that point in my life, if you can shoot tons of slide material without thinking about it, it was like nirvana for me. And so I was shooting all sorts of pictures and this and that and the other. And I was always interested, Howard Baker seemed to be very tolerant of all of this. And it turns out that the man was very much an amateur, very, very advanced amateur photographer himself. And so apparently he had a lot of patience for apparently younger guys sort of starting out doing some of this stuff. And I was always impressed by his kindness toward me in that regard. And Barry Goldwater himself was very much an advanced amateur photographer, and he tolerated, he let me, he actually posed with me, and it was, these guys were both very kind to me. It was great. But to get back to Howard Baker per se, he gave a speech that night. It was one of the finest, most rational, humane speeches in a political setting I've ever heard. And basically, the overriding theme of this speech was, why do we have to fight? We can all define a problem, and let's figure out a solution to the problem. Admittedly, there are several potential solutions to any of these sort of social, political problems. But his point was that if you're dealing with each other in good faith and rationally, and not trying to just score points and be the biggest a-hole on the block, let's just solve the problem. I mean, that's what people voted you into office to do, solve the problem. And it was very rational. And one of the things that really struck me was, this was one of the very first times I ever heard a politician talk about the environment. Now, he didn't use the word environment. This was back when we still called it conservation. Not the environment, not ecology. We called it conservation. And he talked about how God had given us what's all around us, and we're supposed to take care of it and not screw it up and not rape it and not destroy it. And it was one of the finest speeches I've ever heard in my life. And I thought to myself, even at the age of 16 or 17, why can't this man be president? Well, he obviously thought about it. He ran in 1980 and for the nomination, and then got elected majority leader. Well, he was minority leader in the Senate, and then became majority leader when the Republicans had that majority there for 4 years there during the Reagan administration. And then he became Reagan's chief of staff there in 1988 or 1987, somewhere in there. And actually, it was largely due to Howard Baker's efforts that the tax reform thing got passed, such that is letting me sit here on my behind talking to you today about that. Because, without that, I wouldn't have been able to save enough money to be able to do this. No, I'd have worked myself into the ground. I'd be gone. I wouldn't be here. So in that sense, I kind of owe my life, partially to Howard Baker. God bless him. What a rational, humane man, though, on so many levels. And of course, he probably decided not to run for president because he decided he had a life. He didn't want to destroy his life, cramming himself into this box to run for president. And then, no, the man was a higher quality, higher caliber individual than that. And now he's gone. And we'll be the poorer for it, but we were sure good to have him around, blessed to have him around when we did. So, no, that was an interesting evening. Great speech, taking pictures, big tolerated. This 16-year-old guy running around with his camera taking pictures of all these people. Well, I was told that's what my employers told me to do that. I was just doing my job. They told me to do it, so I did it. And great memory, and glad he was around. Too bad he's gone. Hope he didn't suffer. Well, on other matters, regarding other matters, I've, I wonder if that's the same way. Well, we'll find out, won't we? I've had a I've had a bit of an improvement over my state of mind from yesterday. If people sort of watch me every day, which there might be about 2 or 3 that do, but anyway, I'm grateful to the ones that do. Anyway, there's been an improvement in my state of mind from yesterday, so that's good. And at this point, I'm going to say bye-bye now, YouTubers. Paul's home.
Hi, guys.
Okay, bye-bye now.